Welcome to the shop. Today we're comparing these two planes, the FMS PA-18 Super Cub 1.3 to the Durafly Tundra V3 1.3 meter STOL planes. I get comments, hey, which plane is better out of these two? Because I've recently reviewed these two, so I kind of wanted to put a comparison together just to give you some highlights on, when you look at the numbers, when you look at the performance, when you look at the features, and I'm just going to highlight those things. This is my opinion. Everybody's got an opinion, right? There's a lot. Everybody's got an opinion. I'm going to give you mine on why I would pick this plane or that plane and why. Plus, we'll go over kind of the pros and cons on all of them. So, get into as much detail as I can without making a 1-hour video. Anyway, stick around for this. I hope you get something out of it. If you do, hit that like button. I appreciate it. The links to both of these planes is in the description below if you're so inclined to get one. Anyway, thanks a lot. Stick around. Comparing these two by the numbers. Really, as you go down the list, size-wise, very similar. The wing area, a little different, and weight is quite a bit different. But then the wing cube load is relatively close. I was actually surprised because the Tundra just feels lighter and the way it flies. Power system's very similar, except the Tundra being a 4S and the Super Cub being a 3S. Could you prop down a little bit on the Super Cub and use 4S? Yeah, probably. The ESCs are both 40 amp with reverse. The draw, if you look at the watt meter tests for the Super Cub, you definitely could up that. I think it would handle it. Price-wise, they're very similar. And I priced them both with floats. Obviously, the FMS floats, I think, are far superior. And also, the FMS Super Cub has the FMS Reflex Gyro. Let's compare the assembly process. Let's start off with the Super Cub. For the most part, the Super Cub, and you'll see, it comes in two parts. They slide together, screw on the top and the bottom. Please, feed through all the wires. There's a lot of wires in the Super Cub. That was one of the issues. I do like the landing gear. It's very solid. The wheels are excellent. The tail section kind of clips together. There's no screws involved. You got some clips and some screws for the wings, but for the most part, it's a very simple assembly. The Tundra assembly is pretty similar. You basically, in this case, you are screwing on all of the tail section, landing gear. I will say the landing gear is a little flimsy, and the tires, I'll talk about that in a little bit, but they're foam, hard foam. I really like the wing connections. So they have the quick connects. If you did need to transport this without the wings, they make it pretty easy, whereas the Super Cub is kind of hard. Let's highlight a couple of the cool features in each one of these planes. We'll start with the Tundra. Due to the fact that they have the wing connections, they don't have wires all over the place, so the battery compartment's clean. In fact, they have a back hatch where all the wires gather. There's where you put the receiver. Lights are outstanding. The features, the looks of the plane, is really an impressive plane. They have all these little vortex generators all over the wings. Very cool features. From the Super Cub perspective, it's got a nice latch, plenty of room in the battery bay. Most of the time, the 2200 is shoved all the way front. Anyway, I do like the landing gear. It is bomb-proof, durable, and the tires are outstanding. It's got lights as well, very similar to the Tundra. The Tundra has more lights, and I think they're a little brighter. Let's be honest, big factor, how the heck do these things fly? Let's talk about it. Slow flight capabilities. That's really the name of the game with these type of planes. So in this FMS, the Super Cub, I've got full flap, no gyro, and I'm just kind of putting it through its paces on some exaggerated maneuvers, slow flight, as well as hammering on that rudder with a little opposite aileron to turn the plane around quick, like right there. That little maneuver there, for some planes, they will stall and drop quite a bit. Whereas these lighter, smaller planes that have a good wing load, like this one, can handle it. So thumbs up for the Super Cub. Stability during slow flight with the Tundra, it's similar. to the FMS Super Cub. Little different where in the documentation they have you drop the flaps at a much steeper angle. It's like at 80% angle, which is kind of funny, but it really slows the plane down well. Comparing the two of them, I felt like I could fly the Tundra slower. It just felt like it didn't have any wobbles. It just didn't show any sign whatsoever of getting into that stall position. Don't get me wrong, the FMS does a great job, but it just felt like the Tundra was a little slower. All right, now let's get into how do these planes land and ground handling. The landing gear on these two planes is very different, whereas the FMS Super Cub here, it just has a fantastic landing gear, very tough, durable. The tires have some squish to them, some give, which is good and bad. Sometimes it's a little bouncy on the runway. Sometimes they grab a little bit on the runway. But for the most part, the softer tires absolutely enable you to land. You got to get a good three-pointer on hard surface, but on the grass it really mellows it out a bit. I prefer the FMS Super Cub on the grass, Tundra as well, as you'll see, but the Super Cub does great. For me, the Super Tundra landing gear, I get it, it's super light, but man, even on grass, it bounces all. There is no give whatsoever to this. I'll give you a couple examples here. And here's one, I was gonna land on grass and messed up and land on the runway, but here's what it does on the, it's just really difficult. Yeah. Other than that, it's fantastic. I have flown this plane quite a bit, and I really enjoy flying it.
I got that.
It has crazy power, and with that 4S system, light wing load, it's just a fun plane to fly. I had to boost up the elevator and rudder throw quite a bit mechanically to get it to do some of the things I wanted. Out of the box, it's fine, but if you want to do more aerobatic performance kind of things, you got to get a little bit more throw going. So, but from a perspective of your basic aerobatics, of the big loops, heck, this thing will hover. It has no downside to the power. It's just an outstanding performant flying STOL plane. One thing also to notice that the flight times are crazy long. 2200, you could go, if depending on flight, performance and such, you can easily go 8 minutes on a 2200 with this thing. It's crazy fun. I'm a big fan of the FMS Super Cub. I like the way it looks, but from a flight performance perspective, even being a 3S, it'll do all the aerobatics I want it to do. The big loops, Immelman, split S, rolls, great roll rate. It'll even hover. Now, I'm pretty deep into the throttle, but a little 3S that'll hover, that's pretty impressive. Yes, you could probably put a 4S in it and do some modifications, or at least double check on that ESC to make sure you're not smoking it. But the performance, overall flight performance of this plane is excellent.
Time remaining 2 minutes.
Flight times on this one are also very, very good. My timer is set for 6 minutes. You can go longer or shorter depending on what the heck you're doing. Let's head back to the shop and summarize a little bit.
Landing flag.
Let me summarize, at least, again, my opinion on this. I think that this Tundra is a phenomenal flyer. I really like it. The fact that it has the 4S, the lights, I love the look about it. It's just a really great looking plane. The landing gear on it is just, to me, I wish they could have done a lot better job of that. But everything else on this plane is fantastic. The other issue that you have with a Durafly Hobby King plane is availability of parts and pieces and such. They tend to run out of things a little sooner than some of the other brands, like FMS. You know, this PA-18 here, fantastic flyer, and it probably would benefit to do some testing on 4S. On 3S, it works great. You can actually hover it. It's got great power, but it doesn't have that. Some of the looks, I think I can fly this one a little bit slower. The performance is a little different. Both of them are good planes. You know, if you're only flying off hard surface, though, I would get that. This one, no, unless you want to swap out the wheels. And I don't even know if that'll help. Maybe some squishy tires would help a little bit with this. But anyway, those are some of the pros and cons, I think. Look, if you're interested in these planes, there's links in the description below. If you have a question, leave a comment. Maybe I left something out and you have another comment that you'd like to throw at me. Love to hear about it. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.